In unified rules of kickboxing, fighters are allowed to throw punches and kicks to the head, the torso, and the legs above the knees and below the groin, and below the knees but above the feet. For amateur rules, fighters are not allowed to knee to the head. However, they can knee to the body or the legs. Additionally, fighters are not allowed to intentionally target the neck, the back of the head, the spine, the groin, or any joints, such as knees, elbows, or ankles. Fighters are allowed to clinch for up to 5 seconds. If it extends beyond this time, the referees will instruct them to break, and at that time, the fighters will release the clinch and continue to strike. Fighters must knee upon entry. Fighters are not allowed to initiate the clinch for the purposes of resting or preventing the opponent from throwing any strikes. The purpose of the clinch in unified rules is to throw knees that score. All knees that are done in the clinch in unified rules of kickboxing must be done in a straight line. There is no stepping and turning or repositioning. Fighters may reposition their hands as long as they are continuously kneeing or protecting themselves from knees.
It is important to remember the referee will shout the command break. They may shout this multiple times so the fighters can hear them. Upon hearing this command, fighters are to release the clinch and immediately return to striking. If the referee shouts stop, then all action must stop as the referee separates the fighters.
The purpose of the clinch is not to establish a dominant position, it is to throw knees that score. If a fighter cannot accomplish this, then they must release the clinch. Fighters are allowed to catch the kick. However, when you catch the kick, you may take one step and then release. Or you may throw one legal technique to a legal target area and then release. Once one step is taken or one legal technique is thrown, the fighter must release the leg and then continue to fight. Fighters are not allowed to take multiple steps or plow their opponent across the mat. No sweeps of any kind are allowed in unified rules of kickboxing. Kicks to the leg are allowed, and if the opponent falls to the ground and it is done in a legal kicking motion, it will not be considered a sweep. In Muay Thai, fighters are allowed to throw punches, elbows, and kicks to the head, the body, and the legs. In amateurs, fighters are not allowed to knee to the head. However, they can knee to the body or the legs. In Muay Thai, the clinch will be allowed to continue as long as it is productive.
For the clinch to be productive, the fighter must be effectively fighting to improve position or landing strikes that do damage. Simply holding the clinch to stall the opponent's progress will not be allowed. Fighters are also prohibited from executing any takedowns, throws, or trips. Fighters are not allowed to elevate their opponent. They cannot lift them off the canvas.
Fighters are allowed to catch the kick. However, when you catch the kick, you may take one step and then release. Or you may throw one legal technique to a legal target area and then release. Once one step is taken or one legal technique is thrown, the fighter must release the leg and then continue to fight. Fighters are not allowed to take multiple steps or plow their opponent across the mat. It is legal to sweep the opponent. However, the bottom of the foot is not allowed to be engaged in the sweep. Fighters must attempt to sweep using only the side or top of the foot. The sweep may not target the ankle and must target the base of the leg.
The referee is the only person who is allowed to stop a fight, and they may do this for a variety of reasons. When a referee needs to enforce a rule violation, they can do one of three things. 1. Issue a warning. 2. Deduct a point from the offending fighter. 3. Issue a disqualification. The decision is based on 2 criteria. 1. The intention of the rule violation. So, did the fighter intend to violate the rules? 2. The severity of the rule violation. Usually this is determined by the damage that's done to the opponent. This means the referee does not need to go sequentially through the steps of issuing a warning, then deducting a point, then disqualifying. A referee could go straight to disqualification if the rule violation is intentional and causes significant damage. Enforcing rule violations in fair competition is important. The fighter's safety is paramount. Referees are looking out for the well-being of the fighters and are instructed to use their judgment to assess when a fight needs to be waved off. Fights are scored by the following criteria. First, knockdowns. Knockdowns are signaled when a referee begins to count in front of a fighter. For amateurs, this includes standing 8 counts. The round will be scored 10-8, the knockdown fighter receiving an 8. If a second knockdown occurs, the knockdown fighter will receive a 7. The round will be scored 10-7. If 2 knockdowns occur, for instance, if a red corner knocks down blue corner, and then blue corner knocks down red corner, then the knockdown criteria will be even, and the round will be scored 10-9. Again, a knockdown will be signaled only if the referee counts the fighter. Slips and trips should not be considered a knockdown. The second criteria is effective striking. Effective strikes are considered legal heavy strikes that land and do damage. Judges should assess strikes for their damage and impact on the opponent. The third criteria is control of the fighting area. This is evaluated by determining which contestant dictates the pace of the bout, the location of the fight, and their positioning. Lastly, effective technique. This is defined as fighters who utilize more of the available techniques in a given rule set. For example, a fighter who throws punches, kicks, and knees should be seen more favorably than a fighter who throws only punches. It's important to remember this criteria is descending. The decision over who wins the bout is based first on knockdowns, then effective striking, then control of the fighting area, and lastly, effective technique. Judges should only use the criteria down the list if they cannot determine a winner by knockdowns or effective striking.
Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you at one of our events soon.